GameFront.
Updates.
GameFront.
Updates.
Right.
Updates.
Wow, you've got almost as good Dr. Claw voice as I do. Update.
Updates.
Update.
Time for the update. I can't do it for too long because I will shred my vocal cord.
Oh my gosh. I don't know if I told you this before. What was it? I did that character, that voice of Dr. Claw in an Alchemy This podcast. And the character had to go on for maybe 5 or 6 minutes. I mean, it's not a long time, but by the end I realized I might be doing permanent damage to my vocal cords. And I couldn't just like stop my character because we were in the middle of a recording.
Exactly right. It sounds cool, but like you do it for too long, and you can genuinely do yourself a grievance. Is the term? I think. Yeah. So
you can give yourself a false case of razor blade throat. Did you hear about this new COVID variant here in LA?
I've probably had it, but go on.
I mean, honestly, I'm pretty sure that it's the same symptoms I had last time I had COVID like a year ago. But they say that the new version in California, the number one symptom is that you have razor blade throat, and it feels like your throat's filled with razor blades.
Well, I've had that when I've had COVID. Like,
yeah,
the first time especially, it was very much like swallowing razor blades.
Yeah, not my first time. My first time was pretty easy going. The last time I had it, I was camping, so I thought that the reason my throat was hurting was because I was in a super high altitude. It was really dry and really hot. But then when I continued to have my entire body shut down and die, I mean, I was alive, but it hurt. I knew that the razor blade throat was directly related to COVID.
Well, this is the funny thing, right? Like when the worst times I've ever had COVID was the first time when I had the razor blade, and I had everything. It was horrific, and then I've had it a couple of times since, and they were much milder, and it wasn't too bad, like having the flu, but not terrible.
Mm-hmm.
The time I've had it most recently, which is when I came back from California, holy moly, I'm still suffering from it now. Like, I'm still not fully recovered. I've been very sick. Like,
it wouldn't surprise me if that's actually the one that they're starting to see surface so much now. Maybe that was the beginning of the strain.
Well, that's what I wonder.
They're seeing it in our wastewater, and it's like really becoming the most prevalent version of COVID out here.
Yeah, or it's a mutation of it. But like,
yeah,
I mean, I still got over the bulk of it in a week, but the long lingering issues have just not gone away at all. Fatigue, health issues, like heart issues, just the whole 9 yards. Like, it's been shit, frankly. But anyway, I don't recommend it. Anyway, welcome back.
That's not what this update's about. This update is about the gaming world, not just the gaming world, but a little piece of the pie that GameFront really is part of, and it's the modding community of the gaming world.
Yeah, I thought we hadn't done one of these for a while anyway, so it's probably good to have a bit of a chat. But this being our like semi-unofficial podcast, we should turn it into a podcast, really. But
I mean, I'd be happy to. You want me to? We'll turn this into a podcast. I'll edit it up, put some music, and put it in MP3 format. But then we got to figure out where it goes after that.
I thought we, you know what I was thinking the other day? I thought maybe we should have make Hot Off the Press Starter podcast. That would be a great idea.
That would be a great name for a podcast. I love the name of it. I thought I was so freaking clever when I came up with that name.
The name is great.
Really able to
it's just really hard to make. It's just really hard to make. But a podcast would be really easy to make.
Super easy.
Because we just talk about the niece. It'd be great.
And this is pretty big news. My jaw dropped. I didn't hear about it until you mentioned it yesterday. I went onto the message boards, not to spoil anything, but I started reading through it. I mean, I want to hear your take on it, but I mean, I know that they're a competitor of ours, but I've been using them since probably the early 2000s. Like, I can't picture, it seems like they're going through the train wreck that we experienced in the late 2010s.
That's kind of why I thought we should talk about it, because so the news for anyone who hasn't heard is that Nexus Mods, which is the biggest modding website on the planet at the moment, has been sold. So the guy who owned that website has been like I've had enough, and whatever his reasons are, it's not really anyone's business. But he's like, okay, and he's basically sold that to. It was a little bit fuzzy at first, so the post that he made saying he was stepping away just kind of said this username and this username, but the reality is it's been sold to a fairly new company that hasn't been around for too long, but I think they call themselves Chosen. We are Chosen.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. I didn't really understand. Sorry, I don't want to interrupt. You keep
No.
talking.
They seem to be a portfolio of they seem to be like soaking up gaming websites and finding ways to monetize. Does it sound like anybody we know?
I mean, yeah, absolutely. It sounds kind of similar to the merger of Defy and Break, where you're just picking up IPs and gathering the masses.
Yeah, well, Break in the first place as well, but then Ziff
Break
Davis
in the
before
first
them.
place was
So like we can go through the whole history in a bit, but that's kind of what I wanted to touch on because it just struck me how it felt a lot like history is repeating itself, and I think the best way to oh, you know what? Actually, you'll be happy with this because you've been asking for this for ages. We put some new pages on our website today. One of them is a mission statement page, which we've kind of put up just because I think it's good to set your stall out, and it basically just reiterates the fact that as a modding website, we have certain principles that, because of our past experiences, I never want to stray from those principles ever again. And the best way to do that is to put them in writing, like the 10 Commandments, right? It's kind of like, here are the things that we shall not do. And those things are basically that we will always be community run. We'll never sell GameFront to any third party ever again, because every single time we've done it, it's been an absolute clusterfuck. We will never force people to register to download mods. We'll always be privacy first, so we'll never like scrape people's data and sell it or do anything like that. We'll never put speed caps on our download speeds, and we'll never put that behind a paywall. We will never do it.
Thank you, Danny. I was hoping that would be the case for us forever. That was my biggest complaint about Nexus Mods was their stupid speed walls.
Right. So we'll never do that. And we will never we never want to be in a position again where we're kind of like for want of a better word, dictatorial over how this should be. Like, we want to work with modding communities so that they can use our site as a platform, but we don't want to be forcing them to behave or, you know, telling them what should be allowed or not allowed. But anyway, that's kind of like the core tenets of it. But the other thing that we put up, which I think you'll like, is we put up a history page, because you've been asking me for ages, like, can we have a timeline history of FileFront/GameFront? And now we finally have one. So if you go to gamefront.com/our-history, and I'll put the links in the description or whatever, but we do have that now. So you can kind of go through the history of the timeline.
That if I pull that up right now, I'm going to totally sidetrack this entire conversation. So I'm going to save looking. I'm very excited. Thank you.
Well, no,
How
I mean,
hard
that's
was
kind
it
of
to get that together?
Not massively hard, because it's just all been in our heads. Because believe it or not, I've been here this entire time. 20 years. 20 years. Not quite the entire time, I should say. 2002 is when I first turned up. So that was about 3 years in. But 20 years is a long time. But I still remember a lot of it quite vividly. But yeah, I mean, I kind of wanted to talk through the timeline because I wanted to talk through the experiences we had and how it relates to what Nexus Mods has just happened to Nexus Mods, I should say, and what the future is, because it's really unclear. Like, maybe like they'll be great and successful and they'll keep all the promises and they'll be fine. But my history tells me that's not necessarily going to be the case. So
we can only be so lucky for history not to repeat itself, but the cliche is there because it always seems to happen. Well, hopefully, I mean, it would be nice if the mistakes or I should say the challenges that we came across didn't get repeated, but it's time will tell.
Exactly. I mean, Yeah. It's kind of like any business, really. Like, it's like... I need to turn off my Bluetooth speaker. Sorry, people can hear that. It's beeping at me. It's a bit like the enshittification of services, right? It's like you start off small and you're the underdog and you become popular. You grow user share. You get to a certain size, and then you discover that actually, in order to bring value to this business, which is now probably got investment and shareholders or whatever's happened, in order to return value to that, you need to find ways to monetize it. And the way you do that is by making the product slowly worse and worse and worse until you get to the other side where people are like, it's like Skype, right? It's like nobody uses Skype anymore because of...
But it used to be like what Xerox is. Like if you were talking about doing a video call, you'd say, "Let's Skype each other."
Yeah,
And
exactly.
now it's a joke.
Well, Skype doesn't exist anymore. It's actually shut down.
I'm
very
surprised it
recently,
doesn't
yeah.
exist at all. That's crazy.
They shut it down, I think, this month, or they're about to shut it
Wow.
down. It's basically, it's done, yeah. But an MSN Messenger before it and whatever else. But anyway, bit off piste. But it's kind of similar, right? And it's kind of what happened to FileFront in the end, because it was kind of like it started off small as a very... Do you know, it's the very first websites, because we started off as like a little collection of websites, and the first ones was called gamingfiles.com, which was basically like mods, Quake mods, Doom mods. And the other one was called demofiles.com, which was just demos for games. Do you remember demos?
Awesome.
Does anyone
I
remember
mean,
demos?
I barely do. I mean, I remember demos back when they were on the little tiny, the like floppy disks.
Like you get them on the
And
cover of
you'd
magazines and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and like not to sidetrack it too much, but you'd get like Doom, and it would only be like maybe 2 levels, maybe 1 level. But what you could do is play it over in different difficulties. So you'd like get through it in Nightmare or whatever, like the hell difficulty. Oh, I loved demos.
Yeah, exactly. So we had demofiles.com. Doesn't exist anymore, obviously, but it started off as this small thing, and then it kind of snowballed into Files Network, which was a bunch of different games. Like Half-Life was very popular, and Quake and Doom, Unreal Tournament, and that kind of then became FileFront, and then FileFront became massive and massiver and massiver. I think I sent you the timeline. So,
Oh yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
yeah. So we get to about...
I definitely remember the Files Network days. That's probably where I was picking up the Team Fortress, the original mods for Team Fortress, when it was like, I mean, I really loved the original Team Fortress. But go on.
No, I mean, that was it, right? Like that was the core of his success. I think the thing that made the thing that made Files Network or FileFront very popular is what makes Nexus Mods popular, and why it's called Nexus Mods in the first place, because there's literally a post from the very early days of Nexus Mods that it's like Nexus is another word for network in a way. Like that's kind of where it all came from. Like it was a competitor, was a competitor, has clearly done much better than we did, but like that's what it was like. I think that's why it was popular, because every single game page, like the Half-Life page, was very different to the Unreal Tournament page, which was very different to the Counter-Strike page or whatever. Right? Like it was all very focused. But in the end, like, you know, anyway, I mean, this is all great and lovely until about 2005. And in 2005, we were in the position that Nexus Mods is in today, where it's very big, very profitable. Like, online advertising was a very profitable venture back in the mid-2000s. Like, it's not like it is today, where everybody's using AdBlock and nobody's really made... And, you know, COVID's just, like, sucked all the marketing budget out of every company on the planet, so no one's spending money on advertising anymore. So, like, you know what? On a slightly off topic, but I was watching TV the other night, for the first time in forever, and the commercial break was only like 3 adverts long, and then they went back to the program. I've never seen that happen in my life, unless you're watching TV at like 2:00 in the morning, because they can't sell enough ads to fill a commercial break slot. I mean, that's probably not the case in America, but like in the
It is
UK,
not the case in America. It's
no.
quite the opposite. Aaron
Yeah,
and I
you
were
go.
watching. We were trying to watch the local news when the protests were going on
Mm.
last week, and there was a couple stations we were watching, but we kept trying to jump over to ABC, which is one of the probably top, if not the top, one of the top three biggest networks in America. And every time we went, it was just we never saw any news on it. It was just advertisements constantly looping, and it was crazy. We started laughing by the end. Like we never saw one bit of news on ABC. It was just ads every time we tuned into it.
When I was in America, I got that impression. Like what I find amazing is just how short your actual programming, like, so like you'd have a commercial break for a couple of minutes, and then you'd only show like a couple of minutes of program, then you'd go to another commercial break, or you would have at the end of the program, and then you'd have a commercial break, then you'd come back for basically like a goodbye, see you next week, and then the credits.
Yeah. And then the next person would be like, "Hello, we're gonna have a show," and then there'd be commercials, and then it'd be like,
it's
"Okay," and then,
crazy.
yeah, it's awful. It
It's
makes me
wild.
sick to even
I
talking
don't
about it.
even anyway. But point is, back in the mid 2000s, we were doing very, very, very well. It caught the attention of Ziff Davis Media,
Ziff,
Big Ziff, who
big Ziff.
ZDNet, obviously, still very popular to these days. I think they've kind of split into two different companies now. There's two Ziff Davises, which is confusing. But the part of Ziff Davis we were a part of is, do you remember OneUp.com and like that whole OneUp?
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
so we basically got absorbed into that. So we got sold to OneUp. Ziff Davis became part of Ziff Davis Media. And at the time, it kind of felt like this is amazing because now we've been sold to this really legitimate traditional publishing network who've got massive, like OneUp was massive, ZDNet was massive, like big deal, right? It felt like we'd come good. Like it'd be like, oh, this little modding website's become, for want of a better word, mainstream.
Profitable.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that was the case for a little while. But
I mean, there's a side of it. It's like mainstream can feel like a bad word. It can feel like a good word. It's not about just making money, but sometimes you just feel proud of yourself to say, you know what? We've taken something that we're passionate about and we've spread it to enough people that think that they're passionate about it enough too, that it's generating an income.
Yeah, exactly. It was all advertising in those days. Well, that's not quite true. We actually had in those days something called FastPass, which was basically like Disney's FastPass, which was like a get your faster download speeds and remove the ads if you pay. So that's not an entirely new concept, and we did have that in those days. But primarily, the revenue was all advertising. That's how we made and we made a lot of it. Like it was very, very, it was very profitable in those days. And but what happened that wasn't foreseeable at the time? Well, a couple of things happened. I think the most important one was the people who built FileFront to begin with. So there were a couple of people who were involved in it, and I don't know if you'd ever remember any of these people, but on the Files network side, there was a guy called Joss, who founded all that, and he was actually from Norway, Denmark, but he moved to Texas, which is where FileFront was based, and he's still in Texas as far as I understand. He was the founder of all that stuff, and he built a lot of it himself by hand. So very similar to how like Robin did with Nexus, right? So very homespun industry. And then there was a guy called Derek Lebian who ran or did the FileFront side, which was originally separate. But anyway, getting into details. But they kind of stayed on for a little while, but eventually they left, right? Like they were kind of like, this sale's done, the transition's happened, I'm going to move on to other things. And they kind of left the business. And I don't think Ziff Davis, the people who bought it, didn't really know how to make all this stuff work, because running a modding website like Nexus Mods, is very unique in the landscape of. It's almost tantamount to being your own cloud hosting provider. Like it's very complicated.
It's not like hosting it's not like hosting a review, which is awesome, and I'm glad to see that we're putting more original content up in reviews. But you're talking about big files that need to be on servers and able for people to download and upload, or the whole thing falls apart.
It's really complicated, and it's expensive. It's complicated and it's expensive. Running a modding website is not a massively profitable venture, frankly. And that's changing these days. There are different sort of approaches to how, different companies, but we won't go into that. But like traditionally, it was very expensive to do, right? Profitable because advertising was profitable then. But I think what happened over time is because those founders had left, the tech kind of started to fall apart. Things just broke and nobody knew how to fix them. So we ended up in this state at one point where you would load the website, or you would load one of those websites like Half-Life website, and it would be a 50-50 coin flip as to whether you got the current version of the site or you got a version of the site that was 6 months out of date. And I'll tell you exactly why, because there were two primary web servers that would serve the website. There were two primary database servers. Because the traffic was so heavy, we needed two database servers dedicated just to
blast, right? It's so much traffic, you need two servers.
Right. And so there's two database servers, and there was a proprietary bit of software that Joss had written, which replicated them across. So if you uploaded a mod onto a website and it got stored by, say, database server A, it would replicate to database server B, so then they would be in sync. So it didn't matter which one you hit, you'd get the same content. That broke at some point, and nobody as if Davis knew how to fix it. But we couldn't take the other thing down because the traffic would be too heavy for the first one. So that database just slowly got more and more and more out of date until eventually, like, you just loaded it and it'd be like, okay, I'm getting such an old version of the website because the replication just stopped and no one knew how to fix it. Like, that was the kind of thing that started to happen, which is crazy. Like, crazy. The problem you have at that point is when you have a website or a service or whatever that is that unreliable or broken, you lose trust. It, like, people are like, should I be using this anymore? This is really weird. They've not fixed it for like 8 months. Like, what's happening? We stopped adding new games. So you get to a point where we just stopped adding like new sites for games. So all these hot new games would come out and we just didn't have them covered because nobody knew how to add a new game because there wasn't like a UI for it or anything. It was this really complicated process that Joss would do himself, where he'd be like, spin up a new website for the next game, and nobody knew how to do it anymore, and it just stopped working. Like, it just all fell apart. And Ziff Davis kind of started going in this direction with Gaming Today and other bits, but they quickly found out, like, actually, if we just do the news or reviews or video content, we can make money off that much more cheaply than if we do this whole annoying file hosting thing. Have I ever told you the story about April Fools? The April Fools controversy?
I don't think so. I mean, I've definitely felt like I was part of some April Fools controversies, but at the same time, the one you're referencing is clearly not that.
I'll tell you what the first real death knell for FileFront was. It was when Ziff Davis filed for bankruptcy in around 2008. And that's why there's now two Ziff Davises, actually, because one of them became like Future Publishing or whatever, and the other one is Ziff Davis Media or whatever it is. I don't know specifically, but the Ziff Davis went bankrupt and this whole thing happened. But anyway, they put up a post on the 1st of April saying FileFront is shutting down on the 1st of April.
I do remember this. Oh.
Do you know what I mean?
I did. I actually didn't witness this myself, but I've heard this story. But please do tell it so that it's
infamous.
Podcast.
It's infamous because to this day there is still people who do not believe it was real, and they believe it was bad April Fool's joke that went wrong. And it wasn't. It was 100% legit. Ziff Davis had gone bankrupt. They were like, we're shutting everything down. We're done. Like, that was it. So that went up on the 1st of April. And everyone thought it was an April Fool's joke at first. People got worried and upset. And then people were like, no, we were all going like, no, this is real. This is real. It's not an April Fool's joke. And nobody could crack because it wasn't a joke. People had lost their jobs. People were like literally like out of work. They'd been let go. The office was shut. Like, it was crazy. So, and then, so Derek and all like the original people who founded it bought it back last minute, real clutch, like, can we scrape the money together shit to get this saved? And they did it. So on the 2nd of April, the post goes up, FileFront is saved. And it went down like a lead balloon because everyone just assumed it was an April Fool's joke that had gone wrong. And it's just funny that we just never really, that was the beginning of like, you know what I mean? Like loads of people, like you didn't have social media, like you did have Twitter and stuff in those days, I think, and Facebook probably. But it's not like it is today where you've got like TikTok and everyone's on social media all the time. But but it was the first example.
2008 was still probably when MySpace was the ruling, like.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but it was the first time I saw like the whole sort of social media thing where people like, oh, FileFront, we can't touch FileFront anymore. Look at these alternatives to FileFront, but we've got to move from. And like people were upset, and it did a lot of damage. And we never really recovered from it in a way. But then the problem then is that we desperately needed somebody else to buy the site, because at that point it was very like the business had sort of changed a bit. It was a lot more expensive to run now. Like the demands were a lot higher. Like it's just very difficult. So that's when Break Media came along, and I think that was in 2010. Correct me if I'm wrong. Which would be roughly around when you started, right? I think.
I believe that's right. Yeah, I believe it was like probably February of 2010 where I started working for GameFront.
Yeah. So, yeah, that tracks roughly. So.
And I think it was like around January of 2010 where I was answering Craigslist ads for like people that could play video games. And boy, did I trick Mark Burnham. I told him I was really good at video games. I mean, you got to admit, I might have some flaws, Danny, but there's no better liar than me.
Like, I mean, if you pull the wool over Mark's eyes, I mean, to be fair, there was. Yeah. I was going to say there's no better liar than Mark Burnham, but that is a controversial topic for another day.
It's me. It's me. Well, I mean, I sent him a video of me beating like a level in Call of Duty Black Ops that I had worked on for like 9 months. I was really good at it.
And you told him you did it in 9 seconds. I did this yesterday.
And the video I sent him was perfect, but I had done that for 9 months, and he's like, "Oh, can you play all games like this?" I was like, "Yeah, that's just my skill level."
But you worked on Call of Duty as a QA tester, so you were like, you obviously knew how to beat Call of Duty in like 20 seconds because you've been forced to play it a trillion times.
And then my first game, I think, was Dynasty Warriors, and he gave it to me to like do the video stuff with, and I was awful at it. And I was just like, well, I've never played a Dynasty Warriors game. Then I said I mostly play like RPGs and stuff. Then he gave me Dragon's Age, and I was awful at Dragon's Age. Everything he gave to me, I was awful. He didn't know what to do with me. He's like, you're the worst gamer I've ever worked with.
I mean, talent shines through. It worked. Yeah. Do you know? I kind of equate the chemistry that you, Mitch, and Zach had to like Top Gear, right? It's kind of like the same thing. Those three had. It's kind of like you can't and we've tried. We're not doing great at it, but you can't necessarily replace any one of you, the three of you. It's not quite the same anymore. Do you know what I mean? Like it. Yeah. It's, which is a shame, really, because obviously that was then. But like, yeah, I think that's why it worked though, because you guys were just so good together. Like you can't. Which kind of leads to my point, because I think when Break bought FileFront, it was exactly the same thing again. They were kind of like, we don't know. All of their websites were made in WordPress. They actually made GameFront.com WordPress as well, but then had this old stuff running in the background to do the download stuff because they didn't understand what any of this stuff was, how it worked. All they knew how to do was run WordPress content farms. Do you know what I mean? Like, and it's
Which
not
is how they had like Made Man and all these different companies were all
Made
WordPress.
Man, Cage Potato. Well, there was a ton of them, wasn't there? Like, yeah. And they were all essentially just the same thing, WordPress. And they had this really great guy working in the IT place who could make wonderful WordPress skins. But that was about the limit of their abilities in terms of like web dev. Do you know what I mean? It was like we're very good at spinning up WordPress sites, putting a load of top 8 content on there. Because apparently that's the other thing I learned from Break/Defy Media. The perfect sweet spot for any list is the number 8. So it's not top 5, it's not top 10. Apparently it's the top 8. And I don't know why. I don't know what the logic is behind why it has to be the top 8. But apparently top 8
is the 8 is the most satisfying number to look at. It's like an infinity. It's like an Urabura. It has all the curves that you can ever ask from a number. Honestly, it's the hottest number.
It's the most attractive number. I agree.
It is.
So yeah. Anyway, apparently that's why we did so many top 8. And in those days, it was a bit more egregious. It was like the top 8 boobs in video games or whatever, and like, shit like that. But anyway, but that's my point, though. They kind of was like, and I'm forever grateful that they kind of spun up the YouTube channel and you guys, because I think like the stuff you did was so amazing. But it was just here's another way to take this brand and make money from it, which isn't core to what it was supposed to be, which is a modding website. It wasn't. I mean, you did some modding stuff to your credit, like you did like Modmen and stuff like that. I think
so much fun. I long for the day that we can do that again, but
we should.
And it should be a commitment that we make. It should be more than a wish, and it should be a
practice what we preach. Yeah, we should do that. But my point being is, it's like, does the day come for Nexus Mods where the new owners of Nexus Mods turn around and say the best way we can make money out of Nexus Mods is not to focus on this really expensive hosting mods business, which is really hard to do and doesn't generate all that much money in the long run? And do they start to do editorial? Do they start to spin up a YouTube channel? Do they start to do the things that we did? Do people leave? Do they start to find, because looking at Nexus Mods, it looks very, very custom built, much like our website was, and still is. Like, do they?
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, and we're not going through all of what Nexus Mods does, and but don't they? They're the ones who use Vortex, right?
Yep.
So that's an interesting little piece of the puzzle, because you're not really downloading, at least from my experience, not really downloading it from their site. I'm usually downloading it from the Vortex.
You are and you aren't. So when you download a mod from Nexus Mods, you can either manually download it, which is exactly how GameFront works at the moment. Excuse me, exactly how GameFront works at the moment and did work back then. When you download it through Vortex Mod Manager, you are still downloading it from Nexus Mods, but you're just doing it through the Mod Manager, and the Mod Manager is able to automatically install the mod and do all this cool stuff. Vortex Mod Manager is technically separate. Yeah, I mean,
but I like that feature of it.
Yeah,
there are a handful of complaints that I have about them, but that's my favorite part. It felt so easy to mod with Nexus Mods.
Vortex Mod Manager is open source.
Oh, I did not know that. That's cool.
Yeah, it technically, and we have thought about doing this before, and we very well still may, but it really depends. Technically, we could integrate GameFront into Vortex because it is open source, and there's nothing, I don't believe there's anything that would stop us from doing it. And it would be a hell of a lot easier than trying to build our own, which would be very difficult to do. But that's by the by. I think yeah, like I mean, look, this stream is not a let's have a shit on Nexus stream as much as they are technically a competitor. It is more just the whole news of it happening just made me think about our history of it And I guess if anything that I wanted to get out of this live stream, it was just more. What's the phrase? Be forewarned is to be forearmed, or something like that. Like, just be aware of the signs if they come, because we've been through this before and history kind of repeats. And I don't know whether, maybe I'm wrong, right? Like, maybe they'll just make it even bigger and better and fantastic and, lovely, wonderful.
And more power to them if they can. Like, gosh, that's what I'm hoping for them. I don't wish for anybody to fail.
No. I mean, what do they say? Rising tides floats all boats.
I totally agree with that statement. It's rare that somebody's success can be the detriment of another. I think that if modding becomes more popular and more like, I totally agree. Rising tide raises all boats.
But in the same vein, I would also say, if you do find yourself, dear viewer, in the situation where you need an alternative, please do consider us, because we are trying our best to be the kind of like free and open, not unshittified modding thing that we weren't, then became, and are now not again.
Yeah, and we walk the walk, and we're passionate about it. And with any power that we have, we're not going anywhere. It's taken a lot for us to have ownership of GameFront, and there is no overlord anymore that we owe anything to. And yeah, it would be our honor to have more people join us in our pursuit to become a larger, if not the largest, modding platform on the net. Is that too optimistic?
No, I mean, it would be nice. It doesn't. I mean, the core thing is that we are, like, compared to, I mean, we're very small these days, obviously. Like, we still surprisingly active website. Surprisingly, like, we get thousands and thousands and thousands of downloads every single hour, and like, people are a constant, like, but it's not what it used to be. It's obviously, and it's very focused on older games, because that's when, like I was saying earlier, right? Like, we stopped adding new games, and that's kind of, everything before that point is kind of where we're very strong, and everything after that point is where we're very weak. Because obviously it was around the time, was Skyrim, what, 2011, 2010, 2011?
Yeah.
And Nexus Mods did Skyrim very well. And if you want Skyrim, Fallout, like all of those games, like that you go to Nexus Mods, right? We have some Skyrim mods and stuff, but that's kind of where it flipped, right? We became a very distant second, and they became very popular, right? But my point is that yeah, we've learned from our history. Like, Mikey and I both agree, we will never sell this company. We will never sell GameFront ever again to any. It doesn't matter if Donald Trump himself turned around tomorrow and offered me like $5 billion. I would still say no. I might say yes, but I think I would still say no.
But you know that he would be lying, right? Like, that's his stick.
Well, that's it. Exactly,
Trust
yeah.
me,
I mean,
if he hears you say that, he's going to offer you $5 billion. Okay? But don't take him at his word.
but
yeah,
but you know what I'm saying. Like,
I know exactly what you're saying. This is not about making money. It's about legacy, and it's about something that we're passionate about. It's we want this to last beyond just us. Like, it's I feel pretty lucky to be part of something that I was first a fan of, and then was lucky enough to be a part of.
Yeah, I mean, nothing lasts forever. I'm sure the day will come.
Danny, some stuff lasts forever.
Yeah, we can. But
I'm forever.
I'm quite into preservation in general, though. Like, I've always been a bit of a, do you know what I mean? Like, classic cars, trains, like nerdy stuff. Like, I've still got my Sega Genesis over there. Like, I quite like old stuff, and I don't like change. I don't mind change. Like, I kind of roll with new stuff, but I like to preserve old stuff. I'm a bit of a hoarder. I don't throw things away. Like, my point being is that, like, for as long as I'm breathing and on the planet, I haven't spent 20 years keeping this fucking website going to let it go tomorrow. So, like, I'm gonna do my best. to keep it around. But I mean, yeah, I mean, obviously nothing lasts forever. But I think the key thing is to, because of all these different mergers and sales and acquisitions and things going to shit, like obviously our reputation has very much become a, you can't trust them because things are going to stop working tomorrow. And I don't want that to be the case. I kind of want our reputation to be more, we survived all of these things and we're still here, right? Like I think that is a testament to the genuine determination and passion for what we built, as opposed to like what was a ephemeral kind of period of time where shit was going down the pan, right? Like I don't know if I'm describing that in a way that makes sense, but anyway, I've rambled for long enough.
No, Danny, you've inspired. I'm thankful that you shared the history with me, and I'm really excited about that. Neither of us are excited about what's happening to Nexus Mods, but it kind of gives perspective of, you know what, we have had some serious struggles. Nexus Mods is probably about to encounter their own journey of uncharted waters, and hopefully they can survive it. But we have a lot to look back and be proud of. We've faced some dips, and while we're not the biggest we've ever been, we've got more control over our future than we've ever had, and I'm proud of that. And I can only hope that we can, with the loyalty that we've had for our own platform, win over anybody that's looking for someone or a place to be part of. That's a community that's hell bent on not selling out for anything.
Here. A very quick bit of miscellaneous business for the viewers. Shared Souls is on rest. It's on hiatus.
And we can blame. Danny. And we can blame this on Nexus Mods, because that's where we were getting.
No. There's nothing wrong with the mod.
Yeah.
No. There's nothing wrong with the. There's nothing wrong with the mod. There's nothing wrong with it. No, but you're throwing the modder under the bus. There's nothing wrong with the
Danny,
co-op mod.
I'm a good guy, but once in a while,
yeah, you've got it's like lying Tourette's. You just have to tell lies. No, the seamless co-op mod is wonderful. The reason why we've put Shared Souls on a bit of a rest is because I had a mental breakdown after those last two bosses, and literally just said, "Nope, I'm done. I've had enough." I got very ill, and then now we've come back, and Night Rain is here. So obviously, we're doing Night Rain with Morgan. Morgan's back, yay! But we won't go back to Shared Souls until I feel mentally well enough to tackle that. And we may never go back to it, to be clear. Like, I don't want to lie and say we definitely will. We might just do something new with Elden Ring, because for me as well, it's not a series I started. Like, I've been doing it for a year. Like, I kind of wanted to do something new that I sort of been on the whole journey, and like Shared Souls is just really hard, and it'll take us like a year just to finish the DLC, and then we've got to finish the rest of the game. And I've already beaten Elden Ring. I've proven myself. Me and my Onion Knight, we proved ourselves. I have nothing left to prove.
I'm gonna try to twist your arm into beating that, because
Okay.
I will always feel like I left something undone, which I do.
You've left a million series undone.
But never. Yeah, you're right. I can't argue with that. But I'm gonna get back to all of them.
All of them. Someone was leaving a comment recently, which was really made me laugh. Which was a series you'd started like in 2011 or something ridiculous, and they were just pleading, "James, please come back and finish this series." And I left a comment saying, "You never know," but I need to find that comment. What was it? And I see a lot of comments actually for like for you to go back to like games that I think you'd abandoned many years ago.
That's my own hang up. Sometimes when when a certain series is getting like 50 to 60 views, it just doesn't feel like anybody's watching it. But what I should remember is that the 50 or 60 people that are watching it are probably enjoying it more than the 300 people that weren't going to watch it anyways, you know.
Yeah, but these were like videos from like the old days, and I don't remember what the view count was. I'm trying to actually find it and see if I can. I probably won't be able to find it now, but it was I can't remember, but it was something. It was something old. It might have been like Devil May Cry or LA Noire or something like that era. Like it was old.
Definitely not Devil May Cry. I only played that as a James versus Games.
Yeah, it was but it was something like that. Or maybe it was Far Cry. It was something. Anyway, I'd have to find it, but it would just made me laugh. I was like, yeah, the chances of you coming back to that now are so remotely slim. But you never know. Yeah, made me laugh. But sweet. All right. Thanks very much, everyone. We'll be in touch. Bye.